our
reaction
to
the
Red
Bull
driver
announcement
for
2026.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the B1 podcast with Matt and Tommy. If you'd thought there weren't enough episodes before, why don't we add another one to the catalogue? Because Red Bull were like, hey, there's not a lot going on for this upcoming Abu Dhabi finale. They went, okay, driver announcement, here we go. It's been, of course, spoken about a hell of a lot. Who's staying, who's going, and so on and so forth. And we finally have confirmation, Tommy. You know, you are a Max fan, of course. How are you feeling knowing that he's not retiring?
It's good to know. It would be a shame, wouldn't it? Still obviously waiting to see whether he will have the number one on his car next year, or 33, or 3, or 69, or whatever he's going to change it to. But yeah, it's a strange time for Red Bull to announce their driver lineup, in my opinion, when Max is going for the title this weekend. Seems like whether it's a thing to distract from the fact that it's happening and maybe get some questions about that rather than bombarding Max with championship challenger questions. I don't know, but it just seems like an odd time to do it.
Yeah, as soon as Yuki did a good sprint race, they were like, now is the time to announce. Anyway, the actual news that you've all come here for is that Isack Hadjar is going to Red Bull Racing alongside Max Verstappen, and Arvid Lindblad is to join Liam Lawson at Racing Bulls. Let's get into our first thoughts. How are we feeling? What are our emotions? For me, it's not a massive surprise. This is what has been rumoured for a very long time. We have spoken on the podcast about Yuki's performances and how it just has not been good enough to warrant staying in the main team, and also with the fact of Arvid Lindblad getting a lot of hype, a lot of attention in the media. We just thought that would be it for Yuki, sadly. And as of right now, of course, he does not have a seat for 2026. Whether he'll get a reserve role or he'll go to a completely different series is yet to be seen. But yeah, I think overall the feelings are, this is exciting. I like the fact we're getting another driver up against Max. We're getting a new talent in Arvid Lindblad on the grid for next year, but it's not taken my breath away from shock.
Certainly not. No, I'm not surprised one bit, really, by this announcement. We've been saying it probably for the last couple of months because it seemed very likely. You know, Hadjar's had a brilliant season, so you kind of knew that he was going to be there. The only way he wouldn't be there, I think, if he refused. But we, of course, had this conversation of you can't refuse it, even though we know it's this poison chalice and all this kind of stuff. And as for Arvid Lindblad, the team have been very impressed by him. They've wanted him in for a long time. He's been doing some F1 tests and things as well. So it just felt like they were always going to put a new driver in as well, weren't they?
And that they did. So let's start with some questions about Hadjar and Red Bull first. P1 Patreon member Zingy13. How do you see Hadjar faring against Max in 2026? Will he do any better than any of the other drivers that have occupied the Red Bull number 2 seat in recent years, or is the number 2 seat simply cursed? Honestly, the odds aren't horrendous for Hadjar to do quite well in Red Bull. And I know that sounds weird on the face of it, because it's been a disaster ever since Danny Rick. Even the end of Danny Rick's Red Bull career was difficult. But when Danny Rick was in his heyday at Red Bull, that was the last time that the number 2 thrived in Red Bull to some degree, getting victories and so on and so forth. But with this new regulation change, massive overhaul of the rules, I think this really does play into a young talent such as Isack Hadjar. It plays into his hands, in my opinion. I feel as though it gives him a great opportunity to build with the car from literally the ground up, right? Of course, they will still have 4 wheels. It's not like they're running 6 or anything. But there's so much changing that I feel as though Hadjar will do the best we have seen since Daniel Ricciardo in his heyday, as I mentioned.
I totally agree. I think Hadjar, of course, he's going to be up against it going against Max Verstappen. He's, been the teammate killer for the last, goodness knows how many years. But I think if you look at the evidence of when the cars change, you go into 2017, that was a regulation change or like a change of like car. Max didn't, completely dominate Daniel Ricciardo and knock him out the park completely. Then you look at the equally when it changed when Sergio Perez came in 2022, he hit the ground running very well, got a couple of wins, looking good, and there was all this talk of like, can Perez challenge for the championship? It's only when the car, Max really starts to dominate more and more of his teammates when the development pushes towards the way he likes the car, and of course they're always going to do that because it's Max Verstappen, push towards that development of the car. And the problem we've seen now is Red Bull are so far down this route with the way Max likes to drive that car to suit his driving style. And, there's absolutely every right for them to do that because look how he's performing. Now no one can jump in and do it. So I think a complete refresh where they're both going into a new regulation, it'll be a new car for both of them, and before Max can kind of stamp his style as much as he wants on the new regulation, I think is going to play in Hadjar's favour a lot. I think he's going to fare a lot better, I'd predict, than the other drivers.
Please don't let this age terribly, and Isack Hadjar qualifies 20th in the first 5 races. I beg. Question from P1 Patreon member Tony Soprano. How many more times will Red Bull make the same mistake of promoting drivers too quickly instead of giving them time to properly develop at VCARB?
I personally don't agree with this one. I know it's a narrative that gets pushed a lot every time they hire a young driver, but they hired Sergio Perez and it didn't work. No, it's not worked putting anyone alongside Max. This was the theory behind Alex Albon and all this kind of stuff. Going in, and Gasly, and the talk was the same question. You're promoting drivers too early. They said, okay, we're going to put in one of the most experienced drivers on the grid and put him alongside Max Verstappen. And it didn't go as badly, but obviously it got worse and worse and worse. And Perez had a really tough time at the end of it and was dropped. And then even with Yuki Tsunoda, you can argue that he'd had a very long time to at Racing Bulls and VCARB and Toro Rosso and everything, AlphaTauri that they were. And he'd had a long time to kind of get used to Formula One. And then he made the move up and still couldn't perform. So I don't personally see it as a mistake. They know when they're ready, and this is F1, and it's the way that Red Bull do it, like you sink or swim. And some drivers have been able to do it, some others haven't. And I think this is the time for Hadjar. I know it's very early, but I don't know how much he'd benefit from one year in a new regulation in a Racing Bulls. Like, he's proved that he's got talent. It's going to be completely different regs anyway. So like, why go into another car? Like, just learn at Red Bull. I think it's a good idea to promote him at this stage.
On the point of Yuki, I don't think Red Bull set him up for success by the fact that they didn't commit to him from the start of the season.
No,
they had Liam Lawson and then plonked him in mid-season without any pre-season testing of this 2025 car. So Red Bull have not done it perfectly by any stretch. They chose Liam Lawson. He was not ready. He was not ready for the step up, and he could not perform. Like, we're seeing Lawson now in the VCARB doing extremely well because the pressure is off him. It's a car that he knows, and he's doing pretty well. Whereas now,
but is that just the VCARB? Like, sure. Like, do you think, just to like counter that, like, do you think Yuki would have done better or the same going in from the start? Because like Lawson didn't. Like, Lawson was a match of just like covering that side of it. Like, I don't know Yuki would. I don't think Yuki would like have been really, really good had he have had those first 2 races.
Let's say Yuki Tsunoda would not be in the Abu Dhabi Championship finale fight. I'm not saying that if he had the
no, of course
pre-season test. I do think he would have done better or marginally better with that preparation. I think it for sure. Being put into a car that is so otherworldly different to the VCARB, I don't think could work for many drivers. But as you said earlier, you sink or swim in this business, and Red Bull are so hamstrung by the fact, like, Max Verstappen is a blessing and a curse for Red Bull as an outfit because they are literally dependent on him. So what they have to do, and we want to see this, we want to see young talent be given an opportunity. What they have to do is continue to bring new drivers into the outfit to try and find someone that could even come close to Max Verstappen. So you promote Hadjar. If he doesn't do that well next year, and Arvid Lindblad has a great season, I expect him to maybe get the seat in 2027, perhaps. Like there's so many moving parts in Red Bull, because I think they are very much in big red button panic emergency mode, that Max could well leave if Red Bull rolls out the fourth fastest car next year, which it could well happen. So that's what we're kind of seeing before our eyes. As much as it's really exciting to see the young talent, I think Red Bull are in serious concern, or they're feeling like they are going to be abandoned by Max Verstappen at some point if they can't provide a championship-winning car. So, yeah, these are all sort of trying to find the next Max Verstappen, but realising that there isn't really another Max, at least not with the style of car that they've developed over the years. Next question, P1 Patreon member, it's Bob06. How will Red Bull manage the second car next season? Do they give Max priority to try to keep him, or give Hadjar the same chance as Max? It's funny, I think we talk about the second Red Bull seat, it's cursed, it's this, that and the other. That only goes so far. You cannot say that the car is consistently throughout an entire season just not set up for any other driver than Max. Max is a human being. He is a very, very extremely talented human being. And there will be other people that have the same style as Max or can drive around issues in the car and things like that. It's not a case of Red Bull sitting down and going, right, do we give Hadjar a chance next year? Yes or no? It's not a give Max priority or let Isack have a chance. It's build the best car possible, take Max's feedback, because Max is a 4, maybe 5-time world champion come the end of this week. Sorry, Tommy, to say it. They're going to take his feedback because he knows how to build and develop a car that he likes. Hadjar just needs to keep on top of it.
Unfortunately, as you said, it's a blessing and a curse that they've got Max Verstappen, because it means that they're always going to struggle with the second seat because of the way Max likes it. And also, like, prioritizing Max. Some people will say it's silly too when, you know, he might leave, and there will be that thought in the back of Red Bull's mind that they're now weirdly, like, they'd push this car so far down that if there hadn't been a new regulation change and Max had left, they would be royally screwed. Like, they would be literally like last in the constructors, because they'd have probably ended up with 2 drivers that didn't know how to drive it, and it would have completely screwed them. But you have to, even though Max, might leave, might decide to go, or might even just call it quits and decide, I don't want to drive these cars anymore, I don't actually like them very much, and I want to go off and do the Nürburgring or whatever. You have to go down Max's path. He's the 4-time world champion, and unfortunately for Hadjar, he just has to learn from Max Verstappen. He won't be able to. You don't build a car around Hadjar. He's a fantastic driver, and you know he's shown that he's brilliant, and he could well be their long-term future. But you have to prioritize Max and build that car around Max, and that is just the way Red Bull will do things. Even if there's the threat of him leaving, they know that their best chance to win races and win championships and challenge for championships is to just back Max 100%. Like, it's worked for them. You never saw Ferrari, you know, when Michael Schumacher was dominating, going, oh, we should make the car a bit better for the second driver like Massa or Barrichello or whatever. Like, doesn't happen. Like, that, you just have to back your champion, and that's the way they do it. And for most of the time, for the last 4 years, and we're about to find out whether it works again, it's worked.
It has worked, and the minute you don't prioritise Max, he leaves. So you are damned if you do, damned if you don't with Max Verstappen. You have to go with what he wants, but the problem is we've spoken about the weaknesses as a team that also brings, because nobody apparently can drive what Max drives. Next question, P1 Patreon member Patrick. Do you think we'll see Yuki back in Formula 1 again, or will it be similar to Daniel and become a reserve driver?
The only reserve role I see for Yuki, obviously, as we now know, all the seats are locked in, so he's not got another chance at Formula One. A reserve driver for Aston Martin, potentially with their Honda deal, of course. That would kind of work for them and could potentially see it. But I just see Yuki maybe trying something different with his Honda backing, going to like an IndyCar or something and trying to build a name for himself there. It's so difficult because Yuki, I think there's hope for Yuki in the kind of way that Alex Albon has bounced back is a good example. But unfortunately for him, there's not many seats about, is there, in Formula One? And there's a lot of very, very, very talented drivers who want, better seats for themselves. And there's not a huge amount of room at the end.
No, there isn't. I struggle to see where Yuki comes back into Formula One, personally. And there's obviously an understanding of Red Bull and everything we've spoken about with that second seat. But if you finish or, you lose your seat through a season where you've struggled so massively, you need a team to pick you up immediately and, cradle you back to health and happiness like they did with Alex Albon and with Pierre Gasly. Like, they were able to, come back from that. But if you lose your seat and you're out of a whole season, I struggle to see where teams will then reinvest into a driver that sadly, that towards the end, it didn't go well. But I would like to think they also would consider how good he was when he wasn't given the promotion, demotion, whatever you want to call it these days. It's sad to see for Yuki. But, did he do enough to say, I am better than Liam Lawson, I am better than an Arvid Lindblad coming through, I am better than Hadjar? I don't think so. I don't think he was a step above any of those drivers. Not that we know about Arvid yet. So that's where, again, it's a concern for Yuki, because once you're out, it's very hard to get back in. Okay, let's move on now to Arvid Lindblad. Question from P1 Patreon member Tote. Are they promoting Lindblad too early, or can we expect another Antonelli-style season from him? I mean, you've kind of touched upon it, Tommy, haven't you, about the fact that this is what Red Bull do, and too early, too late, it depends on the driver. It fully depends on the mentality that these young drivers show in the junior formulas. You look at what he's been doing in Formula 2, and he's had some pretty decent results in the first half of his season. Not the best in the second half. He's 6th in the championship. But he's clearly shown something to Red Bull about what he's capable of doing. As you said, Tommy, as well, he's driven Formula 1 cars. He's been able to display some kind of talent. And I mean, the Red Bull must see something. They're pretty good at spotting young talent. And time will tell. Time will really tell when it comes to Lindblad, but it works in the sense of going into the junior team. There is some level of understanding within the first 2 races, and then you have to perform fully.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say it's too early just yet. And I know I love it's the Antonelli style season. Antonelli's had half a season where he's been pretty poor. So
it's
a rookie season, pretty standard then.
Yeah, it was hard to know if that's like a pro or con, that an Antonelli-style season, because, yes, he has been brilliant at the moment, but then had that really poor run. I think Lindblad, he's not, set the world alight in Formula 2, but teams know things, I think, more than what you see. Let me just run you through
his results since round 13. It's not particularly good reading considering he's just been promoted to Formula 1. So he's gone retired 12th, 9th, 8th, 17th, disqualified 10th, 6th, 2nd, retired 10th, 6th, 18th, 4th. So it's not the best run of form, and yet Red Bull have still gone, you know what, we see something.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to say here, that you look at that and go, oh, he's 6th in F2. He finished Formula 3 in fourth place. Won a lot of races, had another equally bad end to the season in Formula 3. But I would argue that there's a lot of drivers that have come in now, and not everyone needs to be a Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, where they absolutely like, wow, this is the next amazing talent. Because I would argue Hadjar himself, yes, he finished second in Formula 2, fourth in Formula 3, and did come very close to the title, but I don't think he was like a Leclerc or a Piastri that had dominated up the formula. And equally, like someone like Ollie Behrman has been so good in Formula 1. And I think if you hadn't seen him do those performances where he'd done practice sessions with Haas, of course he had that amazing opportunity to drive for Ferrari. Is it unfair to say that Ollie Behrman, I don't know, like would he have got a shot? I think he would have, but I think would have had the same conversation of like, is he ready? But because he actually got that promotion into the seat, and it was like, wow, okay, this kid is actually amazing. The teams know so much more from data than just looking at like Wikipedia results from that F2, because like it's very easy to look at those results, like you said, and like reeled off. The teams know so much more of like their development, like their ceiling, how much they can develop a car, like all this kind of stuff. Like they've seen so many drivers, and Red Bull themselves and Helmut Marko and that whole Red Bull Junior thing have seen that with Max Verstappen. They've seen that with Sebastian Vettel, so they know what that kind of driver looks like. So they just make that judgment based on that. And sometimes, these kind of results, they know more to it than maybe what we see on paper.
Yeah, and also as well, I need to mention from a positive side, of course, we've spoken about his difficult end to his Formula 2 campaign, but he stepped into the car in free practice 1 in Mexico and put it 6th. He was faster than Tsunoda by a 10th. Of course, run plans
maybe
etc., etc. But he still put the car 6th in a car that he's been in twice. I think he was in Silverstone as well, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check the FP1 results for that one as well. So that one was a bit more steady. He was 14th. But the thing was, right, he didn't bin it. He didn't make any headlines for the wrong reasons. And I think Mexico was probably the moment where Red Bull saw enough to go, I think he's ready for a chance next year. And, congratulations to him.
What you're going to see as well is a amazing clip. I think it was from one of Lando's vlogs about 5 years ago, and you'll see this doing the rounds on Twitter now, because it will be everywhere, and now he's announced. But Lindblad, I think he's like 13 at the time, and he goes up to Lando and he's like, I'll see you in F1 in 5 years. And here we are. It's crazy.
Nice. We love those kind of
love
stories.
The confidence.
That's brilliant. That's great stuff. Next question from P1 Patreon member, A Good Karen. Now that Lawson is going to finally get a full, uninterrupted year at one team, are we going to see a much more settled and confident driver out of him?
It's crazy to think that, Lawson is going into year 4 of his Formula 1 career, and it might just be the first year of his whole career, and he'll probably hope, that he basically stays with the same team the entire time. Because, an interrupted couple of first years, then the Red Bull demotion and stuff. Lawson is an unusual one. He's going to be a great benchmark for Lindblad, with him being in the car last year. Lawson's results, I think, have been more impressive than I think a lot of people think with how he's done against Hadjar since he's come back in. They've been very similar on pace and a lot of their results and things. And now with Lawson, for him, weirdly, like, we've never seen a Formula 1, like a Red Bull driver, get demoted and then go back in at the Red Bull seat. We saw Gasly, even when he won in an AlphaTauri, and said, I would go back in, I'm ready, I can do this. They didn't take that risk. They didn't put him back in. So for Lawson, in a weird way, he's there to be the benchmark. And this is his year to prove, I think, in my opinion, to another team, and for him to do a Gasly and Albon, get out of there, because he's not going back to Red Bull and you don't want to stay at VCARB forever, to prove yourself enough that another team wants him on board. I think that's like Lawson's plan here, and what he needs to do for the rest of his career.
Well, it's a tried and tested blueprint, isn't it, from the Gaslys and the Albons that we've spoken about. So Yeah, for Lawson, it's similar to Tsunoda in the fact that he was also on the back foot. Yes, going to the V-carb is supposedly a better baseline of a car and it's easier to drive, yada, yada, yada. But he still had to just jump in after what must have been so mentally draining and sapping that sort of very short Red Bull stint that he had. And it took him a little bit of time to probably get used to the car, get back up to speed. But once he did, he scored in 7 races this year. I'd say that for Lawson, next year's a really important one. Tommy, you sort of said that as well in getting noticed by other teams, but also he has to beat Lindblad comprehensively. Like, he has to do it. I know that it's technically only his second. He wouldn't be a rookie because he has actually done the entire season this year, but just with 2 different teams. But he's got races under his belt, and Lindblad, as we've already said, has impressed in some ways, but also clearly a lot of learning to do from his junior career. Lawson has to beat Lindblad for teams, I think, to take him seriously. Whether V-carb would still continue with Lawson for the years after that, should he do a good enough job? Probably. It depends who else is waiting in the wings. But I expect him to do better. I think Hadjar's done a very good job and made Lawson, probably think, maybe I do need to look around because Hadjar's done a phenomenal job, and he'll be hoping that that Lindblad doesn't do the same thing. But next year, I think Lawson should improve. He'll be much more settled, as a good Karen says, and fingers crossed for him, he'll be able to get some better results. And that is it. We are done. We are dusted. Red Bull driver announcement for 2026 locked in. How many more podcasts? We will have to wait and see. It's great to continue talking about Formula One because we're going to have a period after Abu Dhabi finishes, once we've done our recap content, where we all just take a big, deep breath and a big old sigh. Tommy, final thoughts, please.
It's all locked in now, 2026. Can't wait for it. But, of course, one more big moment in 2025 still to go. Final race. Don't miss it. Make sure you join us for the watch along and everything, because it's going to be fire.
Gonna be a big one.
It's going to be tense. It might be the most boring Abu Dhabi race ever, but it's going to be tense.
It's going to be a McLaren 1-2, mate. Lando Norris champion of the world. But until then, we'll have good fun. So thank you everybody for tuning in to this emergency podcast, and we will see you this weekend for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix finale. Bye.
Bye.